Hello, Seawhite Trickway89 for Seabass 89 World. This piqued my interest for a moment. There is an annual based on Sela, or Sela. I can't remember how to say her name. Tasha Yar's illegitimate Romulan time child. Now, we all know where she was left in Star Trek The Next Generation, and there has been talk of resurrecting her character many times. She was originally supposed to be the Romulan in Nemesis, but then studio executives, of course, said no, we need someone younger and hotter than Yar. So let's just throw out this legacy character the fans actually want to see their story continued, and just have an actress who's younger. So that was where that went. And there was talk of her appearing in Picard for a moment, and I thought that might be an option as far as Titan and so forth. But they're choosing to continue her story in the Star Trek comics, but there's an issue there as well, because of course they can't just make Star Trek comics which actually have just Starfleet crews exploring space and having weekly adventures and so forth. Of course they have to do an alternate dark timeline where all the characters we love have been shunned from the Federation and have to basically go off on their own ship, like Leia and Luke and Han on the Millennium Falcon, because we can't. It's just maddening the way the current creators of Star Trek view Star Trek. They had to basically make Star Trek today. So instead of the Star Trek future where the Federation is this wonderful place that we leap from to explore space, they've turned it into just today's government, but in the future. So it's corrupt and against minorities and against immigrants and all the problems we have with today's government, and they're put onto the Federation because they just had to turn the show into a contemporary drama, because they didn't have the intelligence or the imagination to create and or maintain a science fiction fantasy future and an optimistic world. They couldn't handle that, so they had to basically turn it into today. So this new Star Trek comic series, Star Trek Frontier, it's basically just a bunch of random characters that we loved from Star Trek and their alternate universe versions all together on one ship, going around doing things in the background and behind the back of the Federation, basically like vigilantes, because that's what they think Star Trek is, basically rebels. Because Star Trek is basically now Star Trek Rebels, or just Rebels. Star Wars Rebels, basically, is what Star Trek is now. In every format, they go to this idea that the Federation is bad because today's government is bad, so we have to make it the same. It can't be that was solved and now we have this great platform, to leap off from and go into the future and into other planets and universes, and it's other people that have issues that we're dealing with instead of our own issues because we've resolved our issues. That was the basic core of what Star Trek, operated from. So that's the problem with this comic series. It's not canon. It's not the original Sela from Next Generation. It's not even the one from. I don't think it's the one from Picard season 1, 2, or 3, because I understand this is a separate universe, separate from that universe, separate from that universe, separate from that universe. Because Star Trek now is a multiverse, but they don't acknowledge it. And they keep kind of sacrificing and destroying one universe for another universe, because they just obsessed with the idea they have to have one universe and try and act like everything is all in one universe. Like they think fans will stop watching and separate if, they realise that all these shows are set in different universes, and it'll just become segregated and won't be popular anymore or something. I don't know what they're thinking is why they're holding on to this so hard. They started with Discovery where they just wouldn't admit it was a different universe, and now they've sort of made it a different timeline for Strange New Worlds, and thereby by default Discovery, but they still won't acknowledge it's a different universe. And they ended the literary universe because that was still keeping the old universe alive, and they couldn't handle that, and it's just a mess. So this story, which could have been really interesting, is now sort of ruined because it's illegitimate, because it's set in this little pocket universe inside a different universe, and it's just once you make things that far removed, everything's its own universe and nothing affects anything else, nothing matters. Like, why do I need to read this story? It's not her story. I want to see what happened to the sailor who I can never pronounce her name. I want to see what happened to her after Next Generation. I want to see where she ended up in the Romulan Empire and what happened to her after Nemesis. Because we kind of know what she was doing in Nemesis. She didn't get to be that character, but we kind of know where she was at that point. So we sort of got that, but they just won't give it to us. So instead we get this weird Rebels version, and it's not anywhere near as interesting as I thought it was going to be. I got excited for a second, and then I'm like, oh, it's like another universe within the alternative universe and nothing to do with the original canon universe or that character, which is what I wanted to see what happened to her. So, you know, I just can't ignore all that and have any interest for it because it's so far removed from the character that I'm actually interested in seeing, you know, the conclusion or continuation of her story. But yeah, it looks interesting. That's all I can say.